What's going on, NBA fanatics? This is your friendly neighborhood Memphis Grizzly homer, Memphis X, and I talk hoops. Today, we are continuing with our trades for Ja Morant, this time the Western Conference. But first, every hero needs their theme music.
KeyAno.
Grizz gang, go hard. Baddest in the game, we be on one. I talk hoops so secure. All up on the court, but we gon' score. Memphis bringing heat straight from Tennessee. Demorant spiking, let's go for he that MVP.
Of course, we continue the trades for Ja Morant. This time, we trade him in the Western Conference, which would be very, very, very scary for anybody that is a Memphis Grizzlies fan, because despite my tongue-in-cheek and my funniness on this stuff with the trades of Ja Morant, trust and believe, I would prefer he stay in Memphis and get his stuff together. Now, the question is, do I think he's going to get his stuff together? But he would be a hard player to replace as far as talent level, production, youth, contract, all of that. Locked in for 5 years on a regular max when he is a super max talent, or a whatever they call the extended max for guys coming off their rookie contracts. He is deserving of that. So for him to be on a regular max deal, the same deal DeAndre Ayton's on, the same deal Jamal Murray's on, same deal these other guys on that I went through these trades for, is astonishing. And like the last time, like with the East, some of these trades are good. Some of these trades are really a poo-poo platter because the teams don't really have anything that would be a fit for the Grizzlies. But like I said, you never know. You never know in the NBA. So first off, we are going right down the standings in the Western Conference again. And, of course, we are going to start with the Denver Nuggets. And as you can see, the Denver Nuggets, I have Ja Morant, Brandon Clark, and John Conchar going to the Nuggets for Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. And I am sure the Nuggets would do this trade probably in the middle of the Western Conference Finals. That might be taking it a little too far, but they might agree to the trade in the middle of the Western Conference Finals just to compare Jokic with another true superstar, and Ja Morant operating off of Jokic. Crazy. Moving on. Of course, our preference is Ja Morant, smiling face, to stay in Memphis and get his stuff together. So that is why that's included. As you can see, even though there's a suspension likely coming, and I don't know how long the suspension is going to be, I would say the top side, the bottom side is 10 games, the top side is 25 games, and I would probably bet on it being almost directly in the middle. My guess is 18 games, and 18 games is a severe punishment because it's just enough games out of the first of the year to probably keep him out of the All-Star game, and it's definitely just enough games to keep him from being eligible for any postseason awards. And that, although it doesn't sound like a punishment, that would be 2 years of all NBA play that you're going to have, and he won't have 2 years of all NBA status on his resume, which would be crazy. But it is what it is. Next up, the Sacramento Kings. And the Sacramento Kings did have some success this year, and that was being great for them. But even though De'Aaron Fox was the media darling this year and he received all the awards this year, Ja Morant was a better player. As you can see, the Kings get better with this trade, and the Grizzlies get worse because Ja Morant is the better player. He's younger. He's under contract for longer. So the Kings throw in Malik Monk, and the Grizzlies drop Tyus Jones. So that's it. Not a bad trade for Grizzlies if you just wanted to clear Ja Morant off the roster. Next, we have the Phoenix Suns, and really this was a team that really didn't have anything that would fit. They don't have picks. Wouldn't want Durant, and Booker isn't going anywhere. He is going to be a fixture in Phoenix forever. So the only thing they had was Ja for DeAndre Ayton, and they don't even have any other young guys or picks to throw in. So this was definitely a no-go for me and Memphis. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Clippers, and this is one of those ones where you move into, we're going to try to win now mode. And you got Ja Morant, Tyus Jones, John Conchar for Paul George and Terrence Mann, where Terrence Mann takes over the backup combo guard duties to come off the bench with Luke Kennard. And Paul George gives us the small forward that we need, and the Grizzlies can concentrate on trying to trade for a point guard that will be good enough to manage the team. Next up, the Warriors, and this is just a funny trade. Tyus Jones and Ja Morant for Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. Most likely the Warriors would have to throw in Kuminga. I should have thrown in Kuminga in this deal. And picks. But even though this trade is trash, you got to remember Jordan Poole is not as bad as he was this year, I hope. Hopefully he is closer to the player he was last season. You know, I like players to succeed in the NBA, even if they're on hated teams that I do not like. But this trade, I would not bet on Jordan Poole returning back to his pseudo-Curry status. The Lakers trade, a simple one. Ja Morant for Anthony Davis. This would be interesting because Anthony Davis and Jaren Jackson Jr. together would be almost illegal defensively. It would be crazy defensively. Crazy defensively. But you can see the Lakers would increase with wins, and this just lets you know how good a player Ja Morant was last year in what is perceived as a down year for Ja Morant. He still was better Raptor-wise than Anthony Davis. So there you go with that. Some people probably would do this because it would probably make the Grizzlies a contender next year. But, you know, with that, it would depend on, you know, if you thought Tyus Jones was a good enough point guard. And I do not. Timberwolves, Ja Morant for Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley. This is to get some of those nostalgia feels back, having Mike Conley come back and being the point guard. And while we have Anthony Edwards on the wing, and that would give us the big, even though he's just 6'4", he is a big guy. He can play small forward. He gives us a big, small forward. And he can score, and he's dynamic with the ball. So he wouldn't need too much of a dynamic point guard to go with him. So Tyus, Mike Conley combination would probably be good enough. And I'm sure there is a hive of Grizzly fans that would love to have Mike Conley back and the Grizzlies being very good again. And this is one of the few trades in this, among these 30, that gives the Grizzlies an established young player, which is always a good effort. Then we had come to the Thunder, and this is really this is a very good trade. I wouldn't mind it. Ja Morant, John Conchar for Kenrich Williams, Josh Giddey, and Chet Holmgren. Josh Giddey, of course, could play the point guard next to Desmond Bane. Kenrich Williams gives you a good small forward to plug in at a very reasonable price. And Chet Holmgren gives you a potential star to play next to Jaren Jackson, who can shoot, block shots, and hopefully stay healthy. But like I said, this would not be a bad trade for the Grizzlies. Now, you know, Shea, Ja Morant backcourt would be interesting. Wouldn't be able to shoot that well. Spacing might be crazy, but talent is talent. Next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. In this trade, I have Ja Morant, John Conchar to the Pelicans for Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones, and Dyson Daniels. Now, there is no mistaking the fact that Ja Morant is the better player over Brandon Ingram. Herbert Jones would give them a nice wing defender, and Dyson Daniels would give them a decent point guard replacement. He could back up Tyus Jones while he learns the position, hopefully. But, yeah, this would really change the dynamics of the Grizzlies when you have Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels coming off the bench. You would basically have Herb Jones, Dyson Daniels, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia, Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark. Wow. So much depth, so much good depth. And you still have your picks to trade, give you some ammunition to trade some different players. Now, this is the fun trade. Ja Morant and Steven Adams for Luka Doncic. This is one of the few trades that I've done on here where the Grizzlies did not lose wins making the trade. Luka is most definitely the better player on this trade, and the Grizzlies would probably have to throw in picks. Now, there have been some rumors that Luka might be getting itchy in Dallas and might be looking for an escape route, but I doubt Memphis would be his preferred destination. But I would not doubt that the Dallas Mavericks wouldn't mind having Ja Morant replace him. But like I said, they have Luka under contract for 4 more years, so they are not going to be in a hurry to trade Luka Doncic. They shouldn't be anyway. Then we have the Utah Jazz, and we have Ja Morant going to Utah for Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, and the Jazz's 2023 first-round pick. Walker Kessler, of course, had a promising rookie year. Lauri Markkanen had a promising year. But Ja Morant is the goods, and this is one of the few trades where we have plus Grizzlies wins. So this combination of two bigs is what is getting it, but a front line of Lowry, Jaren Jackson, and Walker Kessler would be incredible, an incredible rotation, especially if you still got Santi Aldama in there to throw in there as a backup. Brandon Clark, Steven Adams, still have a lot of pieces to trade. This wouldn't be bad, and this would be a trade in which the Utah Jazz probably have their regular pick I think it's about 8 or 9 that their pick would be. So nothing too crazy. As far as giving the Grizzlies something like Scoot Henderson, or I wouldn't even think about Victor Wembanyama for any team trading him for Ja. No team's going to do that. Scoot, maybe. Brandon Miller, most definitely. But this 8 or 9 would be a good trade for Utah. Gives Utah a superstar to build around, a young superstar. The Portland Trailblazers. You have Ja Morant, Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and their 2023 first-round pick. Simons is signed for 3 more years. Shaedon Sharpe, of course, is on his rookie deal. And, of course, y'all know I had him as the number 1 prospect in the draft, and I still think of him that way. So while most people don't consider him, you know, in that vein, I consider him still a better prospect than Paolo, which might be a mistake, but that's how I feel. So him, Anthony Simons as a 3rd guard, or starting next to Bane, and Ja Morant, Damian Lillard backcourt. I mean, Ja Morant is the same size as Anthony Simons, and it allows Dame to play off the ball a little bit more and get more open looks. I mean, I can't imagine Dame getting the looks that Bane was getting playing with Ja. Would be crazy, but, you know, Dame was crazy already last season, averaging 32 points per game, I think. Then we have the Houston Rockets, and we have Ja Morant for Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, the Rockets 23 pick, and all of Brooklyn picks. Now, you know what I'm going to do there. Try to go get Mikal Bridges with those picks, and we would get to keep the Grizzlies pick. But this would probably need for this to be a number 2 pick or, you know, a top 4 pick at least. But it just depends on how the Grizzlies feel about the other guys in this draft. I would do it for Scoot and just Scoot, Jabari Smith, and Tari Eason. Now, when you get to Brandon Miller, it gets a little iffy. When you get to Amin Thompson, it gets iffier. It just depends on how you evaluate the players or how the Grizzlies front office evaluates those players. And last but not least, in the Western Conference, we have the San Antonio Spurs, and I have them trading for Ja Morant, for Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, and a non-Wemby first-round pick. This would give the Grizzlies some good young depth to put next to Jaren and Bane, and hopefully, if it was Scoot, Bane, Keldon Johnson, Sohan, and Jaren Jackson long-term would be great, at least in my eyes, because I love Jeremy Sohan. So, you know, it is what it is. That's what I like. And we're going to say this is a wrap it up. And tomorrow I am going to continue with the trades. Well, not the trades, with the off-season primer. And we are going to talk about the small forwards I think the Grizzlies should target in trade this summer. Peace.